I am hyped after watching that NBA draft hype video. I got my boy Drake Huey with me talking NBA draft prospects, and he's giving us his mock draft from 1 to 14 today. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I am blessed. I am good, and I'm ready to get the show started, man. Get your popcorn ready, because you told me a name that I love, man, and I'm glad you have him in your top 5. But just to give some people some context of who you are and what you've done, we'll kind of hit on it or expand on it a little bit towards the end of the show, but kind of give people some intel on what you did with the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, so first of all, grew up a huge Kings fan from Sacramento originally. I spent the last 5.5 seasons with the Kings in various capacities, ranging from player development on the court, off the court, scouting, college, pro, G League, and then doing a lot of work helping run our G League team in Stockton. So I had a dream job. It was awesome, obviously working for your hometown team, and had a ton of great experiences. And it was a blessing the last couple of years. So, it's good to be chatting. It's always good to talk hoops. So I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so at number 1, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Detroit Pistons will select who, Drake?
So for context, right, before we start, This is basically a draft, not necessarily on like my big board or talent, but I think like ideal fits for all of these players, right?
What you think these teams will do 1 through 14?
Okay, cool. So that's kind of how I arranged it in my mind prior. But Detroit, I think it's pretty hard to pass up on Cade Cunningham. Obviously, I think he fits a lot of what Troy Weaver is trying to build in Detroit. As far as like positional size, length, you got a guy who can potentially be your future franchise point guard. Cade's got real size. He's got real IQ, elite playmaking skills. And I think that it's also a position of need for Detroit. And so I like Cade's fit a lot going number 1. I think they're in a good spot.
I can't say it any better. The only thing that concerns me about Troy Weaver and some of the reports that have came out in the last 3 days, maybe it's just smokescreen. You would know more about this than me. There are reports that they may take Jalen Green. Does that shock you at all?
No, I think that it's smart. I think there's a lot of cat and mouse that goes on during this time. People are trying to play poker faces, and he's trying to leverage that pick as much as he can and see, what's out there from potential buyers. So, I think that Jalen is actually someone who you can make the argument that he could be the best player in this class. I think he's got real upside from an offensive standpoint. I mean, that's a guy that could potentially lead the league in scoring. He's got a ton of tools. I think his upside is actually a little higher than Cade's. Cade's is a very safe pick and has a high floor, but I think that Jalen's got real talent. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if, they're trying to see what they can get if they move back, see how badly a team might want Cade. But I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
All right. At number 2, the Houston Rockets will draft who, Drake?
Here I had Jalen Green, actually.
Okay.
Jalen, again, ultra talented. I think that he kind of would fit nicely with a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. in the backcourt. Someone, again, who can instantly add offense, talent, scores at every level, makes the game look really easy. And they seem to be kind of a team that's, say what you want. Obviously, they had a rough year and they're losing James Harden, but I really like some of their role players. And if you start adding a couple star pieces, and that team becomes pretty interesting with a guy like Jalen. So that's kind of who I would like to see go to Houston.
So far, so good. I have Cade and Jalen going to 1 and 2. But my only question is, do you really think they're a good fit with Kevin Porter Jr.? Since, some people may think that Kevin is more of a shooting guard, but I tend to think he's more of that James Harden role where he wants the ball in his hands and he wants to facilitate a little bit more. So it kind of does make sense. Is that what you're seeing with KP and with Jalen potentially?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I thought a lot about this too, and I think one thing that I learned working in Sacramento is, especially if we're talking top 10 picks, you got to go for the best player available
No
more
doubt.
so than fit, and you figure it out after that. And so with Jalen, I'm a huge Kevin Porter fan, and so I think the thing that we really saw this year that I think has always been an underrated part of his game, though, is the playmaking and how he makes the game pretty easy. He's got great vision. He can make a variety of plays out of that pick and roll. And so him being able to kind of shift over to that one at times, I think, and it's a guard's game, and
Right.
there's no reason you can't play both those two with a point guard as well. So I'm kind of in that, like, go get the most talented guy and just figure it out.
BPA, best player available. Don't be the Kings, man. I'm sure there are some questions regarding that pick that you're going to have to face a little bit later. But at number 3, the Cleveland Cavaliers will draft who, Drake?
I'm going Evan Mobley here. I think it would be a nice fit for a relatively young core. They've got a decent amount of talent. And with Jared Allen and then you add Evan to that mix in your front court, it's a pretty interesting core. They have some decisions to make, I think, with Colin and figuring out their backcourt situation with him and Darius Garland. But I really like Evan's skill set. I think that, like Jalen, his ceiling is one of the higher ones in this draft. I think that his offensive game has not a long way to go. I think that he can he has a lot more in his game than he showed at USC from like an individual offensive standpoint. And so I love his skill set. I love his mobility for the position. I think that I could totally see him being an Anthony Davis-like player. I think with him, it's more so like, does he have that inner dog in him? Does he want to be that alpha franchise-leading guy? It's probably my one question with him. But from a skill level standpoint, I think he's as special as they come.
Do you think he fits with a guy like Allen, even though Allen is reportedly might ask for $120 million?
I'm a big Jared Allen fan. I think that he's someone that you can for sure. I think he's reliable. I think he's proven to be a defensive anchor for a good team. I think like my one question is obviously I personally like to pair a rim running big like Jared with a guy that can stretch it a little more and kind of add that spacing element. So I do think that Evan can become a better shooter at the next level, more repetition. And I think that, like, again, as his game continues to evolve and grow and he matures, I think that that's an element where I can for sure see him getting better at. But initially, I like that pairing together. I think it can work out.
You just said something important. You said you're very high on Allen. I remember we interviewed him during the pre-draft process with the Kings when you guys worked him out. Did he ever, or did you guys ever consider drafting him between those, was it 15 and 20?
Yeah, I mean, he was, I think the group was relatively, he was a little bit polarizing at the time. I think he's gotten significantly better as a pro. For whatever reason, a lot of Texas bigs have gotten better once they, become pros. And I think that Jared kind of, to me, showed a lot more consistency at the pro level than he did at college. I think that, we like Jared. I think we're also equally high on other bigs that year. And so, he's become quite the player and he's really improved his game since his rookie year. So, yeah.
So
I've always been a fan. I'm a bigger fan now, though.
Jericho Sims is a guy that's climbing up a little bit after showing some of his athletic abilities, also a Texas guy. Do you see him kind of sneaking into the first round, even though he's projected to go in the second?
Yeah, Jericho is like one of my guys that's like a little underrated, I think, in this class. I think that in watching him since his freshman year to where he's at now, his improvement has been super impressive to me. Mainly from a consistency standpoint, I think more than anything. He's rim running consistently. He's setting hard screens. He's rolling. He's a lob threat. He's playing with a consistent motor. I've always loved his physicality, his frame. He's got an NBA ready body that you can plug him in right away. And he's someone that I think that, a year from now we'll look back and he'll get drafted to a team that's, probably a playoff team. I think that he's someone that could easily come in and kind of fill a role quickly.
At number 4, the Toronto Raptors will draft who, Drake?
Jalen Suggs. I think that the top 4 is relatively solidified for the most part. I think Jalen fits Toronto nicely. Toronto was able to obviously move up, and I think that, with the question marks surrounding Kyle Lowry, I think that Jalen's the guy that has IQ. He's won, plays the right way, and can kind of come in again early on day one and fit in nicely with a veteran Toronto core, guys that know how to play. I think that Jalen kind of fits that roster nicely.
Okay, so the draft starts now. At number 5, the Orlando Magic will draft who, Drake?
This might be surprising to some. I'm really high on this guy. I probably have him here on my big board as well, but James Bouknight is who I have going to Orlando at 5.
100%.
I think that James, even more recently, and I'm not sure if he caught his pro day, or there's certain guys that
he did, and he like actually killed it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I put all. I mean, that's like a portion of
the
evaluation process, but there are certain guys that, having done this, having played, as you know, you guys kind of, for me, I'll get this feeling of this guy's special. The way he moves, the way he works out. He's got elite athleticism. He's got NBA game to me. Guys that can create their own shot whenever they want, get to their spots whenever they want, make a play for themselves or others. I think are incredibly valuable at the NBA level. And so James to me would be a great young piece for Orlando's young roster. It fits their timeline. They're in no real rush, but Bouknight's a guy that has real upside. And so whether he ends up in Orlando or somehow falls, I think that he's one of the better players in the draft.
100%. He's top 5 on my big board. Some people may think we're crazy. I don't think so. I think his floor as well, honestly, is at worst, for rookie year, he comes in and he gets you 12 points off the bench. He has that type of talent where he's a microwave type scorer. And his biggest thing was, his three-point percentage wasn't great. We can say that this type of shots that he took in college with UConn, being literally the offense, has a little bit to do with that, with better spacing, better talent around him. There's no reason why his shot shouldn't translate at least to a better percentage. To me, he's a 3-level scorer, and he's giving me Donovan Mitchell vibes, bro. He's that special to me. And just talking about Donovan Mitchell, just out of curiosity, going back to that 17 class, was he ever in contention for the number 10 pick before you guys traded that, or even 15 or 20? No, well, not 15, but at 10, because I had him going 10 to you guys at that year. I was the only one in the media that actually had him going 10. Did he have a good workout with you guys at least?
Donovan was the best workout I've ever seen.
God damn it!
My time with the Kings. It was so obvious to me, and
I knew that.
Actually,
I was just
say what you will about. I'm not a huge college resumes to me. That's what gets a kid in a conversation to be drafted. When a kid can come in and perform when the pressure's on in a NBA practice facility or in a pre-draft setting, in front of GMs, coaches, I put a lot of stock into that. How do they carry themselves? How do they interact with coaches? How dominant are they in a workout? How do they interact with players on their team? Are they competing in these drills? You get a real sense of, what they're about, what their competitive level is like. And I was blown away. It's the best workout I've ever seen. He came in and dominated. I know there was it's tough. You can, as scouts, you can sometimes, analysis paralysis. You're over-evaluating, or you're leaning too much on either their college resume or their workout. And to me, you really have to have a step back and have real perspective on what just happened, who he just went against, who he just destroyed in this workout. And like I said, I've heard the story that happened in Utah where Dennis Lindsey told his entire staff, if word gets out about this workout and what you guys just saw, you guys are let go tomorrow, because they were trying to keep Donovan under wraps. And I think that, in college, he didn't really show a lot of his ability to score for himself. They were kind of playing him out of position. They didn't think he could play a point guard. They thought he was undersized too, blah, blah, blah. And drafts are entirely situational. He went to a good place for him in Utah when they just traded Gordon Hayward. They were looking for a guy that could come in and handle a majority of their offense. And it worked out great for Utah. It worked great for Donovan. So I was not surprised at all. There's certain guys that have come through over the years that I've just been blown away with, and vice versa. So that was one in particular that hurts because, I was a big fan that year as well.
So what's that process like? Like, do they take some of your input, some of your, your coworkers' input? Like, just kind of briefly, if you can touch on that, was he ever in the conversation for number 10?
Generally how it works is, this is why you have a scouting team. You fly your scouts in on, 2 weeks before the draft, and you guys are just meeting regularly throughout the day, breaking down prospect by prospect. And it's really a conversation. And ultimately, in an ideal situation, in most winning organizations, I think that the general manager is in charge, and the general manager is able to, ultimately make the final decision. And I think that's how it should be. So that being said, you have a group that you trust, you hire, all of them give their input, and you really dissect guys and figure out which guys are best for my roster. And ultimately, the buck stops with your general manager. And so whether Donovan was in the discussion, Donovan was definitely in the discussion. I think that, certain guys had seen him more than others, and, certain people at the time of the draft have a little more clout or a little more influence than others as well. So this is just the nature of working in a front office, being in a war room. Every team is similar but different at the same time. So that's my best answer for that.
It hurts, man. It hurts till this day. Okay, at number 6, the Oklahoma City Thunder will draft who, Drake?
I have them taking Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga, I think, is someone who, again, kind of fits. OKC's draft capital is crazy over the next couple of years, obviously. And so Kuminga is someone that I think has legitimate upside. He's 6'8", wing who, can really score and impact the game on both ends. I think he has potential to do that. I kind of see him in an OG Anunoby type role, with a little more offensive upside, I would say. He's got to improve as a shot maker. But I love his frame. I love his positional size and length, his versatility, especially on the defensive end. And so I think with OKC, you've got a young core, and he kind of fits that timeline well.
Okay. At number 7, this is interesting now. The Golden State Warriors will draft who, Drake?
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm thinking about this.
Me too. It's hard.
It's a tricky one. I do like Scotty Barnes here. I can see I'm not one to this player is Draymond Green, or this guy is everybody. Draymond Green in particular, everyone's trying to find that new hybrid modern day power forward, that new Draymond. With Scotty, I do like a lot of qualities in his game. I think that he is a versatile guy that you could slide down to the 4. I think he can guard a variety of positions. He spent a lot of time on the ball this year playing point guard, so he clearly has this skill set. I think playing with guys like Steph and Clay, and in a system where he can kind of be that potential big facilitator, from the 4 position, I think is intriguing. And I think that he's a guy that has shown, he has great positional size and length. And I think he has some upside on both ends of the floor. So I like Scotty here. I think he, like Kuminga, I think he has to prove that he's a consistent shooter, or at least a threat to make an open shot. But I like a lot of elements of his game. His length you can't teach. He's got pretty good ball skills for his size. So I can see the fit in Golden State for sure.
Perfect fit with the Warriors. You may think I'm crazy, or this may be a hot take or not. He's number 2 on my big board. I'm not high on Scotty Barnes. I think he's going to be a star. His jump shot will translate. And just right now, just off the bat, his playmaking ability is full for the game. His defense, his ability to guard 1 through 4. Now, do I think he'll guard point guards in the NBA? No, but if he can guard 2 through 4, that's very valuable in so many ways. So if he falls to number 7, that's a great fit for the Warriors. So at number 8, the Orlando Magic will draft who, Drake?
I'm going with Josh Giddey. I think that
Wow. The Australian ties are here, huh?
Exactly. I like Josh, and I think that he's got a little ways to go, and he's going to have an adjustment period. I think as far as like adapting to the speed of the game here, the athletes, especially on the defensive end. But when I look at Orlando's roster, I just drafted James Bouknight, who is going to be my offensive weapon. I think they could really use an influx of playmaking. And with Giddey, I think you've got a really special, offensively gifted hybrid, point forward. What really blew me away is his size. And I think watching his NBL games this year, his agent that he has currently is the same agent that repped me when I was over there. So I've been hearing about Josh for a while from Daniel. And I think that Josh has like really I kind of compare him to like a Tyrese Halliburton. You can see some elements of LaMelo as the playmaking ability and like some Joe Ingles in him. And so I think that clearly all those players are legit NBA guys that are legit rotational pieces. And I think that, again, when it comes to drafts, personally, I think you minimize your risk in drafting guys when you pick a player who at least really has a high understanding of the game, knows how to fit in, knows how to move without the basketball, can dribble, pass, and shoot to some level. And I think that Josh is a guy that I think has a pretty safe floor. I think he's a basketball player, and you can throw him out there relatively soon, but also has some upside in him. So I like Josh. I'm giddy on Giddey.
Nice. At number 9, the Sacramento Kings will draft who, Drake?
Obviously, I've thought a lot about this pick, and I doubt that this player is available by the time he gets to 9. But Davion Mitchell, I think, would be a home run pick for Sacramento.
Wow.
I think that, truthfully, I think Davion, Josh, or James Bouknight would be awesome fits for Sacramento, all for different reasons. But in this particular scenario, I think Davion's exactly what Sac's roster is kind of missing. A two-way player, elite competitor, some toughness. I think that he brings a lot of qualities that Sacramento's roster lacks. And I think that on top of that, he's got some good upside to him. You talk about a guy like Donovan Mitchell. I can see some Donovan Mitchell-like qualities in him, but I even think he's got more on the defensive end than Donovan. He's not the explosive athlete that Mitchell is. Donovan, that is, but Davion's got great shift ability. He's got the ability to score with the ball in his hands, make straight line drives. Really cares about winning. Like, all these intangibles are things that's exactly why I kind of settled with him. This is what I think would be ideal for Sacramento. A player in that type of mold, I think, would bode well for Luke Walton and the roster.
At number 10, the New Orleans Pelicans will draft who, Drake?
I went with Franz
Wagner.
I think that I actually kind of went back and forth between he and the next guy, but I think with New Orleans, I think he kind of fits another playmaker. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Lonzo, but a playmaking and shooting element to their roster, I think, would be helpful. I think if you look at their team, especially late season, shooting is definitely an area where they needed to improve in. And I think Franz can kind of add some size, add some ability to like make plays off the bounce
Okay.
And at shooting, they finished a lot of the year with guys like Najee Marshall, and I think they struggled to kind of find that potentially third or fourth scorer. JJ wasn't really a fit, and so yeah, I would go with Wagner here.
At number 11, the Charlotte Hornets will draft who, Drake?
I'm going Corey Kispert here.
Okay.
I picked him instead of Franz. I flipped him because I think with LaMelo, playmaking is not as big of a need in Charlotte as it is in New Orleans. But I really like Corey. I mean, obviously watched him for the past couple of years. I think his shot is real. I think his size is real. He understands how to play, and I think again putting another shooter around LaMelo on that roster off the bench, I think would be a great piece for that fun Charlotte team.
That would be fun. Lots of shooting, lots of playmaking. I like it. Although, I was thinking you would go big. I know at 11, I either got Garuba going there since they do need a center, but Rashawn Holmes could be an option for them as well. And then you do draft Kispert, which kind of makes sense. At number 12, the San Antonio Spurs will draft who, Drake?
12. I actually I had Jalen Johnson going to San Antonio. I think, again, like if I'm thinking for the kid and, a good situation for him, I think that Jalen is pretty far away from being an NBA player. I think he's got all the measurables, all the tools, but I think he's got a lot of growing up to do. I think he's got a lot of learning to do. And what better environment than San Antonio to try and bring that out of him? I think that 100%. They have the organization to do it. They have the player development to do it. And I think they have the patience to, not necessarily rush him. They know what developing him looks like. He'll probably spend time in Austin, which I think would be great for him. And they'd kind of ease him into an NBA role. But it's kind of one of those, like, at 12, I wouldn't call it a high risk, but I would say it's definitely a high reward and a good fit organizationally for the Spurs and for Jalen as well.
At number 13, the Indiana Pacers will draft who, Drake?
Similar guy to me that isn't really ready now, but potentially could be. Keon Johnson out of Tennessee, I think is I'm not a huge fan personally, but I can see the argument for him. I can see the upside. I think he tested with like the highest vertical in draft history, pre-draft history.
He's a freak. He's a freak.
He's got a lot of learning to do again, but with Rick Carlisle there and a pretty veteran team, I think that they have pieces in place that can be patient with his development, and I think that they know what development looks like as well. So I had Keon going here.
Yeah, I had Josh Giddey going there because Ray Carlisle, I think, likes more NBA-ready guys. I don't think he has the patience to wait, but it is what it is. So at number 14, the Golden State Warriors will draft who, Drake?
I think this is, from arguably 12 to 30, it's kind of a to each. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think here at 14, I'm going with Trey Murphy out of Virginia.
Okay.
He's someone that's recently come on my radar and shot up my personal board. But I think for Golden State, adding a 6'9", 3-4 man who can really shoot it, comes from a disciplined program. I could see Trey eventually evolving into a Mikal Bridges role.
Wow.
I think he's a two-way player. I think he moves well without the ball. I can see, he's got great length. And so, for these reasons, and again, Golden State's another organization that I know will maximize guys like this, ease them into a role and kind of get the most out of them. And I think for how they want to play, I think Trey kind of fits their style of highly skilled basketball.
Well, that's the end of the draft. Did Zaire Williams ever was he ever in your consideration at 14 for the Warriors?
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of went back and forth between those two, actually. I like Zaire a lot. You could easily make the argument that He's actually probably in my top 14 big board personally. Very similar reasons. It's hard to
Yep.
teach that type of size, and the ability to shoot, I think, is obviously
He's actually taller now. He's 6'10".
valuable. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he got NBA game. If I could redo this, I'd probably go, but I was running straight off of work.
No,
But yeah,
absolutely.
that's another great name.
Is there anyone on your big board that's in your top 10 that wasn't in your mock draft?
Anybody that's in my top? I think Zaire is probably
Okay.
the first one that comes to mind. Şengün is interesting. Although I'm kind of off drafting bigs personally. Excuse me. I just think like where the game's going, and hopefully trying to find like real impactful players in the lottery. I tend to lean more towards guys that can play with the ball in their hands and make plays. So
Okay.
Goon is one of them. Yeah.
I know you have to go, so I want to be respectful of your time. But we had a ton of questions on Instagram, and I'm gonna ask you. One's kind of a funny one. I think he's your friend and the guy that plays with us, Wolfsman 20. Is he the shooter?
He thinks he is. Yeah. Is this Will Trollsome?
Yeah. Is it the guy like that like never misses? He said, what does Drake... Oh, no, he said, what did he say? Who is the best shooter that he knows besides Peja?
The best shooter I know besides Peja. I'm going to go with Robbie Lemons, actually.
Robbie,
Lemons,
shout out to Robbie.
I know Will wanted to hear his name, but he's probably top 100, I would say, out of people I've seen. But Robbie Lemons, fun fact, also Kings executive. He's still with the team. Smartest guy in the building. Remember that name. Robbie is the new director of basketball operations for the Kings. Super talented, played the game at a high level, highly intelligent. I'm super happy that Monty kept him around, and they seem to be vibing with him. But Robbie's a name that everyone should know moving forward. Good friend, but great person and really talented executive. So that's to answer Will's question.
Yeah, it's funny because I had no idea. Like Will has like trolled me before in my DMs. He said that I'm losing my hair like Trae Young, but I had no idea that he was a guy that we played with, and like he never says hi or anything. Today I realized I'm like, hey, is it the dude who like is lights out? I was like, shit, it is him. I ain't gonna lie, you and him are like the most lights out shooters at our weekly run. But last week, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when I went, I was like, dude, I'm stopping this guy, and I got like 3 straight possessions that were stops because I was irritated by all the shots that he was making over everybody.
I'm not surprised at all. No, he's easy to shut down, so that doesn't surprise me.
No, he's very competitive. All right, so the second question, this is more about the Kings, comes from our good friend Mojo_49. Can the Kings build around Fox going forward? How can I sign up for a Pro Insight membership?
Wow. Mojo49. Great question. Both of those. To answer your first question, can the Kings build around Fox? Sure.
Expand on that one.
I think that, I'm a big Halliburton fan. I think that what a great piece for Sacramento to land for the future. I think that guys like Halliburton are he's a special. I've never been around the kid, but like he just seems to have this like spirit of wanting to win, wanting to make his teammates better. So I like and it's funny because like talking back about what we just talked about, like Kevin Porter and can he play with Jalen Green? Like that was always a question of mine. It's like, well, can De'Aaron and Tyrese play together? But clearly they've proven that they can, and I think it's a great example of like just take the best guy available. Unfortunately, Tyrese fell to 12.
Yeah.
And then just figure it out. De'Aaron, I think, is ultra talented. I think he's a top 5 talent from a point guard position in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's just got a long way to go as far as, he's proven to be, he's that max guy. To me, like when you are a max player, you have that label now where the expectation goes up. This is your team. And so, if we're looking to hold someone accountable, naturally it's got to be De'Aaron. And De'Aaron has all the tools to lead the Kings to the playoffs. He's just got to be better. So I love De'Aaron. I think that, again, ultra talented, but just got to continue to get better, make teammates better, and step your game up even more.
Just to touch on one point about Tyrese and Fox playing well together, we have to ask the question because this was like the most popular question about Luka and Marvin Bagley. There's obviously rumors that Bagley was the better fit. Revisionist history, even on that day. I mean, 2 years in advance, I knew Luka was the best player in the draft. But since you think Tyrese and Fox play well together, because the biggest thing people say now is like, oh, could they have played well together? Do you think Luka and Fox would have played well together?
Good question. I don't know. Their styles are so different. Obviously you just draft them and figure it out. Maybe they could. I don't know how effective De'Aaron is without the ball in his hands. Luka's clearly dominant with the ball, and he's elite. He's,
But would you say Tyrese is better with the ball in his hands as well? Because I believe he is.
Yeah, I think Tyrese he's not as ball dominant though. I think you can start on one side, have him coming off on second side action, and he's not one to just kind of hold the ball and the ball doesn't stick with Tyrese. I think it tends to stick a little bit with Luka, so it's a little different. But again, you just kind of looking back, you just figure it out. I mean, put basketball players on the court, and Dallas figured it out. They had Dennis Smith, who they were high on at the time, but it very quickly became Luka's team. I'm not sure what would have happened here. I think that the one thing to take into account is that, again, we talked about drafts being situational. Mm-hmm. At the time, Coach Yeager wasn't a huge advocate for playing young players, and so would he have played and given Donovan Mitchell the same leash that Quinn Snyder did in Utah from day one? I don't know if I could raise my hand and say yes, absolutely, because then you're a team that takes Donovan in the top 10 when he was projected a little later, and he's not playing at all, and so just as quickly as he could be, you could have this great player, but if he's not getting time or not getting the opportunity in his first year, then things change quickly. And if Marvin gets drafted in a different situation than Sack, maybe he's having a better career. I mean, this is why drafts are so tricky and really difficult, and you have to really be intentional with your picks and have a real plan for who you're drafting. So I just went on a tangent, but.
Does that change? No, that's a great point though. But does that change with stars and role players? Because I've always been under the impression that if you're a star, and to me, it doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna pretty much.
Your talent will shine.
Yeah, exactly. And with role players, to me, it's more situational. Like you said, maybe on this team he might be a good role player. On this team he might not. To me, Bagley was always a role player coming out of college. With Luka and with De'Aaron, in my opinion, like you said, basketball, you just have to put basketball players on the floor, and then the rest will take care of itself. Do you kind of fall under that thinking as well, or is everything situational for every single player?
I think it's definitely a combination. Talent for sure shows through, but I think there's elements of players that need to be given long leashes and time. Because if you look at Donovan Mitchell his rookie year, it wasn't until January. He was going 6 for 25 on several occasions. He was not shooting well. And come January, they stuck with him. They continued to give him confidence. And then you just saw, that back half of his rookie year, he really took off and became a consistent scorer, more efficient. And I think that, he's a star. And it eventually shined through. But certain situations I think are different. And that's just one example. But sure, you draft a guy, and most of the time you draft Luka. I don't know. It's a little tricky though with Buddy and Garrett Temple, and I mean, Coach Yeager was very like, make no mistake about it. And some coaches are wired this way, like they feel more comfortable playing older. But in his words, like the older player will win every time, and that was kind of you saw that with a lot of his rotations. And for a coach that wants to win on a nightly basis, like some coaches, and this is where like organizational direction comes in alignment with your GM and like the vision.
Mm-hmm.
If a coach is constantly fearful of his job, then he's going to do everything he can to win that night. And sometimes a guy like, waiting for a guy like, I mean, he didn't have to wait for Luka, but waiting on a rookie doesn't always sit well with a coach that is like wanting to win as many games as possible and not really caring about the future. So,
did you guys think Marvin Bagley was the best player at number 2?
Truthfully, I'm not one to like, act like I know it all. I did think that Marvin was the best player in that draft.
Okay.
I think that you look at that top 10, it was a big, heavy draft at the top of that draft. And so I actually had Marvin 1, Luka 2, Trey 3, Shea. I was super high on Shea 4, and then Ayton 5. And Ayton's been way better than I gave him credit for, clearly. But, again, you look back and you learn. And I think at the time, like, I think picking Marvin at that moment in time was defensible, especially when you're looking at, how we were trying to play. And I think looking back, I mean, the idea that I was hoping we would have, and you kind of saw it in that 2018-19 season, is that we're going to play with pace and in space, and we're just going to outrun teams. Teams are going to be exhausted. And we have the fastest guard in the league that's got a big that can run with him and do a lot of the things that we wanted Willie to do on a consistent basis.
Right.
I thought that Marvin was a great, like 20 and 10, just like high motor, high energy screener, roller, rim runner that could fit nicely with our core. You have surround him with shooters. I think the real issue with Marvin, one of them was just, when we drafted him, I don't know if the identity was clear. I think, some
100%.
people didn't think he was a center. Some people thought he was a power forward and maybe could play some small forward eventually. Like, that's where I think, and when I talk about like, being intentional and really having a development plan for a player and like being able to project him into a certain role and then like grooming him to, and developing him into that role, I think is like all on the organization to do. And so I don't know if, I think that like, Marvin is a talented player. I think he has some maturing to do on his side, but I still think he's talented. I mean, the kid's average like 14.9 and 8 rebounds, and like people think he's like this awful, never going to play in the league bust, and there's like a human element of this all where I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes. Like,
yeah,
Papagiannis is looking good, and Papagiannis is like 23 years old still, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back in the league when he's like 26 or 27 and looks like a completely different player. Like, what were we doing when we were 20 years old?
100%.
Like what did we look like? And for us to be like, oh, ride him off, he's done. Now, he's got to carry his weight and stay healthy and be much better and mature and grow up on and off the court. But, from a skill and talent level and ability level, like, I still think he's good, very good.
And then one last thing they keep asking me to ask you is, what did you guys see in Justin Jackson that year when you guys drafted him at 15?
JJ, I think, if you look back at that roster, we needed some wing depth. And so Justin, I think, kind of fit that like 3-and-D type player. Won a national championship coming off that.
Why not Kuzma, though, at 15?
What did Kuzma end up going? Like 26,
27? Yeah.
I love Kuzma. So, I'm not making the decisions in that room. But
did he have a good workout? Was his workout better than Justin's?
They actually worked out together.
Okay.
Kuzma went straight at Justin. Like, Kuzma, even coming off the combine, I was, like, enamored by him. And so I really liked him that year. I think that, like, Justin, sometimes players don't pan out, or in his case, like we gave him a lot of opportunity. He was kind of like going back and forth from starter, not starter. I mean, he had a wild first 2 years, and then we ended up moving him, obviously. But I think the thought was, you have a solid role piece that can come off the bench and be that like defensive, wing player for you guys, but also stretch the floor for us around De'Aaron, and great without the great mover without the basketball. So that, I guess that was that 20. What year is that? 2018 now.
The JJ was 2017.
Man, that's crazy. It's only been 2 years. Yeah. Good questions, all of this. I mean, I love obviously talking about it and having the chance to kind of reflect and hoping that the Kings can kind of turn around. Back to Brum's question though, Pro Insight. It's a company I've been working with on the side outside of my pro.
You're cutting off. Say it again from the top.
Pro Insight's basically like a holistic basketball information platform, scouting. We do a ton of scouting, but really focuses primarily on grassroots. And then I've kind of come on board and trying to help grow the business and round out the back end and do a lot of stuff that I was doing with the Kings as far as, G League stuff, draft content, focusing on some NBL stuff overseas and stuff like that. We've got a database that college Division I programs subscribe to, NBA teams subscribe to. And so they produce some awesome content. We've got a great team of young, talented guys. So that's some stuff I've been doing on the side just to kind of keep my hoop fix in and stay in the mix a little bit. So wanted to give them a shout out. Pro Insight's like an awesome company, and Matt's a great dude who has put together a great product. So thank you, Brum, for asking. Excuse me.
That's going to do it, y'all. I appreciate you, Drake. I know you got to go and live it up. You have a baby on the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How's that process been like? And what's the first thing that you're going to, or buy him, I get, or it's a boy, right?
It's a boy, yeah.
Okay, so what's the first thing that you're going to buy him?
You already know I'm getting the hoop ready.
Hell yeah!
It'll be in the delivery room.
Facts. Playbook and everything, huh? That's what I'm gonna do if I have a kid.
A1, yeah.
We're gonna be LeVar Ball Drake and LeVar Leah Ball, man.
That's actually in the running for a name, LeVar. I think is. I think my wife would love that. But yeah, we're super excited and blessed, and she's due in September. So
maybe the baby's born on the Mexican Independence Day, September 16th. Who knows?
It's actually close. Hey, let's go. But yeah, I appreciate that, man. We're excited about it over here. So just preparing for this next phase of life.
No doubt. So you beat both Maggie and I at it. So, I mean, we're probably going to be trying soon, hopefully, because I'm trying to be a dad too. So, we'll see. We'll see, man. We'll definitely have you back on. We'll have you back on closer to the NBA draft. It's right around the corner. It's going to, fly by real fast. I appreciate your time, brother. I'm sorry for taking your time for so long, but it was a great conversation. It was a great conversation, and on behalf of the entire Basketball Zone and Cowbell Kingdom family, we thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.